Tennessee's at-home learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all our sixth graders out there, though everyone is welcome to tune in. This is the first lesson in this week's series. My name is Megan Gilley, and I am a sixth grade teacher in Tennessee schools. I am so excited to be your teacher for this lesson today. Welcome to my virtual classroom. If you didn't see our previous lessons, or you would like to rewatch this lesson, you may visit the Tennessee Department of Education's website at www.tn.gov/education. You can still tune in, of course, even if you haven't seen any of our others. Today, we will be reading Arachne, which is a Greek myth created to explain how spiders came into being. Before we get started, to participate fully in our lesson today, you will need several pieces of paper, a pen or pencil, a firm surface to write on, and the student packet for ELA Grade 6, Lesson 11, which can be found at www.tn.gov/education. Since we are focusing on this text for several lessons, you will want to keep all of your notes together. I'll pause for a moment while you collect and gather your supplies. Okay, let's begin. In our lessons last week, we read the historical fiction text, The Wall. You wrote an informational paragraph describing how one character's actions demonstrated the theme that people often make sacrifices for the good of others. I really hope that you shared your writing with someone. I'm sure it was great. Today, our goal is to read a Greek myth and learn how spiders came into existence. We'll read the myth and then we will study the myth from Athena's perspective or point of view to see how the story unfolds or why she does what she does. Finally, I will give you independent practice to get ready for our next lesson. Last week we read about historical fiction, but this week we're going to be focusing on a myth. A myth is a kind of story which attempts to interpret some aspect of the world. It's really about something that has come into being. And there's different elements of a myth. They usually contain interactions between supernatural gods and humans, and a lot of the times reflect the rules of Greek culture, like the importance of being welcoming to strangers and of not having excessive pride. We will be reading Arachne by Jean Lang. What do you notice about the word Arachne? Does that sound familiar? Do you know what the scientific name is for a spider? It is arachnid, and so that's right. We're going to be reading a myth that explains how a spider came into being. We start our story, Arachne, in what is described as out in the country. So I want you to listen for clues that support that. The hay that so short a time ago was long green grass with fragrant meadow sweet and gold-eyed flowers growing amongst it in the green meadow land by the river is now dry hay, fragrant still, though dead, and hidden from the sun's warm rays underneath the dark wooden rafters of the barn. Here we have words like hay, barn, and meadow that would support that the setting is out in the country. But I want to draw your attention to the word fragrant still. It's saying that there's hay in place of this long grass, because hay is just dried grass, and fragrant means sweet smelling. And so it says that it's fragrant still, even though it's dead. I want you to think of that as like if somebody were to walk in the room that has perfume on, even after they leave, you would probably still smell the perfume and the fragrance. That's what's being described here, but with the hay. So as we read, we are going to keep a collection of words that are unfamiliar to us. So I want you to pull out a sheet of paper and go ahead and add the first word, fragrant, which means sweet smelling. We will have a total of 9 words as we read today. So go ahead and jot this one down to start. Fragrant, sweet smelling. And let's continue. I want you to continue to imagine this setting as we move further into this next section. Occasionally, a cat on a hunting trip comes into the barn to look for mice or to nestle cozily down into purring slumber. Now and then a hen comes tiptoeing through the open door and makes for itself a secret nest. Sometimes children come in chasing cat or hen, or merely to tumble each other over the soft hay. And when they have gone away, a little more of the sky can be seen through the little window in the roof and through the wooden bars of the window lower down. Yet, whatever other living creatures may come or go, near those windows of the barn and high up on its dark rafters, there is always one living creature working ceaselessly working. When through the skylight the sun god drives a golden sunbeam, the web of the unresting worker can also to be seen, for the window is hung with shimmering gray cloths made by Arachne, the spider, and from rafter to rafter her threads are suspended with the matchless skill. The author draws our attention right here in this whole scene to the spider that is spinning its web in the rafters of the barn. Kind of reminds me of Charlotte's Web just a little bit, doesn't it? Let's continue. Pay attention to the character as we read this section. She was a girl once, they say, the daughter of Idmon, the dyer of Colophon, a city of Lydia. In all of Lydia, there was no one who could weave as well as the beautiful Arachne. So Lydia, I want you to go ahead and look at this map. Lydia is in Greece, and then to the southwest of Lydia, you can see Colophon, which is where she's from on this map. We already know about her. We have Arachne, who is a beautiful girl that weaves. Her father is Idmon, who is a dryer of cloth. And so we'll continue. To watch her brush the wool of the white fleeced sheep until in her fingers it grew like the soft clouds that hang round the hilltops was pleasure enough to draw a crowd from all over. When she drove her swift weaving shuttle here and there, the crowd would catch its breath. Magical was the growth of the cloth through her darting fingers, and yet more magical the exquisite images that she then embroidered upon them. For birds and flowers and butterflies and pictures of all the beautiful things on earth were created by Arachne, and old tales grew alive again under her creative needle. The author, Jean Lang, states that magical was the growth of the cloth through her darting fingers, and yet more magical the exquisite images that she embroidered upon them. So we want to think about, well, what is it that a weaver does? And it's somebody who makes material in this pattern of cloth that overlaps. Weavers can make pictures using different colored threads that are woven together. And so it continues saying, when she drove her swift weaving shuttle here and there, the crowd would catch its breath. To me, that means that she was so amazing that people would just come to watch her. So we have a word here that is embroidered. And if you take a look at these pictures, these are samples of embroidery. Embroidered is complicated stitch work. So I want you to jot that word on your word list. And it further talks about tapestry. Tapestry is kind of the whole collection of the work. So jot that word down too, the entire embroidered work. So embroidered, complicated stitch work, and tapestry is the entire embroidered work. Continuing on, one day Athena, goddess of craftsmen, heard news that there was a girl whose skill rivaled that of the goddess herself, and she, always jealous, disguised herself a woman bent with age, and leaning on her cane, joined the little crowd that so often hung round Arachne as she did her busy work with the needle. As the crowd watched, woven flowers sprang up under Arachne's fingers, just as real as the flowers that sprang from the ground. Despite herself, Athena marveled at the magic skill of the fair Arachne. Here we hear the word craftsman. We just finished recently with the Middle Ages, and we have the word craftsman. Do you remember what it is? Yeah, it's highly skilled tradesmen. They make things. So Athena, this goddess of craftsmen, is sitting here watching her. How do you think she feels when she hears about Athena's talent? And this is what one artist believes Athena to have looked like. It mentions in the text that she's always jealous. So we could see that this person, this goddess, of craftsmen, here she is jealous. So it's interesting that she marveled at the magic skill of the fair Arachne. Maybe she's feeling just a little bit threatened here. Gently she spoke to the girl, and with the words of a wise old woman, and warned her that she must not let her ambition soar too high. Be careful, girl, there is no better craftswoman than the goddess Athena, and were you to dream that one day you might equal her, that would indeed be a crime for any god to punish. Here we have the word ambition, and Athena is warning Arachne to not let her ambition soar too high. I've always thought of ambition as a good thing, so it's a desire for fame or power to achieve something. I think that Athena doesn't want her to be too ambitious because in Greek culture, it's a bad idea for a human to want to reach the same level as one of the gods or goddesses. So let's continue reading. Glancing up for a moment from the picture, whose perfect colors grew fast under her slim fingers, Arachne fixed scornful eyes on the woman and gave a merry laugh. Here we have the word scornful. She had scornful eyes, which shows contempt or hate. It's really looking down on somebody. So if Arachne has scornful eyes and a laugh, do you think she's ready to listen to the woman's old advice? I don't think so. So let's go ahead and also add scornful to our list of words. Again, that means to show contempt or hate or looking down on someone. So jot that to your list, as well as ambition if you didn't from the previous slide. Did you say equal, Athena, old woman? She said. You must be from the far-off hills where the goat herds live, otherwise you would not speak to me, Arachne, of equaling the work of Athena. Excelling is the better word. So I'm going to pause for just a moment because those are some really bold words that she says here. She's super disrespectful to this woman by one saying old woman and that she must be from where the goat herds live. I also noticed here that she's saying like not only does she want to equal the work of Athena, she actually wants to excel. She wants to be better than a Greek god. So I want you to take that into consideration as we continue. Athena flushed with anger at the bold words of the girl. Be careful what you say, child. There may indeed be punishment with time, the old woman croaked. Laughing still, Arachne replied, I don't fear Athena. And turning to the crowd, who, half afraid to listen to her daring words, she said, You who watch me day by day, you know well that I am not just boasting. My skill is as great as that of Athena, and greater still it shall be. Let Athena compete with me if she dare. Well do I know who will be the victor. Here we have the word boasting. She's saying she's not just boasting, meaning she's not bragging or too proud. Here she truly believes that she's that great. Boasting isn't always the best. Being humble is a better option, but I believe that Athena is probably a little offended by this. But let's go ahead and add boasting to our list of vocabulary words. Again, it means bragging or too proud, showing too much pride in something. Great, let's continue. Enraged at the girl's bold words and her challenge, Athena cast off her disguise. The crowd cowered as before them. stood the radiant goddess with eyes that ablazed with anger and insulted pride. Why is Athena offended here by Arachne's claim to be a better weaver? Yeah, I think she's offended because she's this goddess and Arachne is a mortal, and goddesses are supposed to be superior to mortals. We also have this word here, radiant, and before them stood the radiant goddess. They think of the sun being described as radiant, which is not growing brightly, but glowing brightly. So let's add that word to your list. Radiant means glowing brightly. And we'll continue on. Athena is here, she said, and crowd fell on their knees before her, humbly adoring. Arachne alone was unabashed. Her cheeks showed how fast her heart was beating. From rosy red to white went the color in them, yet in firm, low voice she spoke. I have spoken truth, she said. Not woman nor goddess can weave like me. I am ready to abide by what I have said, and if I did boast, by my boast I stand. If you will agree, great goddess, to try your skill against mine and you win, I will gladly pay the price. As soon as Athena revealed herself to the people, everyone fell to their knees, everyone except Arachne. Unabashed means without embarrassment or shame here. So Arachne is holding her position whether she is talking to an old woman or to Athena herself. She just challenged a goddess to a weaving contest. Take a second and write unabashed to your list. Again, unabashed means without embarrassment or shame. Moving on. The gray eyes of Athena, the goddess, grew dark as the sea when a thundercloud hangs over it and a night storm is coming. Not for one moment did she delay, but took her place by the side of Arachne. On loom they stretched out 2 webs with a fine yarn and quickly set to work. Athena and Arachne began their weaving, covering the splendid cloths with pictures, such as no skilled worker of tapestry has ever dreamed of accomplishing. Remember what tapestry looks like, and you can see it up in the 2 pictures above. Under the fingers of Athena grew up scenes so real, so perfect that the crowd could not tell whether the goddess was indeed creating life. And each picture was one that told the power of the gods and of the doom that came upon those humans who had dared to struggle as equals with them. Not very subtle of Athena to create scenes of doom from mortals who try to stand up to gods, was it? So let's continue. Arachne glanced up from her web and looked with eyes that glowed with the love of beautiful things at the creations of Athena. Yet, unafraid, her fingers still sped on, and the goddess saw, with a look that grew yet more clouded, how a mere girl had chosen for subjects the tales that showed the weaknesses of the gods. One after another, the living pictures grew beneath her hand, and the crowd held their breath and mingled fear and excitement at Arachne's godlike skill and daring. This is one tough competition. What stories is she telling with tapestries? Right? She's telling the weaknesses of the gods. In addition, her skills here are being described as daring and, more importantly, godlike. So I want to know, will she beat Athena or not? It was impossible to choose between the work of the goddess and the girl. Darker and yet more dark grew the eyes of Athena as they looked on the magical beauty of the pictures, each one of which was an insult to the gods. How is Athena responding to the fact that Arachne's weaving is as beautiful as hers? I agree. I think she's getting more and more furious and embarrassed. Then at last the storm broke, and with a scream the enraged goddess shredded the Arachne's weaving. The beautiful pictures were torn into rags and ribbons. Arachne, shamed to the dust, knew that life for her was no longer worth living. She had aspired in the pride of her splendid genius to compete with a god and knew now that such a contest can never be won. Athena looked at her and smiled with an icy kindness. "O guilty and shameless Arachne, forevermore you and your descendants will live and weave as you did today, so that men will never forget the punishment of those dare to rival a god." So the contest is over, and we want to think about, well, how does it end? Athena essentially destroyed Arachne's tapestry here. Was it a fair contest, do you think? No, because it was between a mortal and a goddess, and the mortal never stands a chance. Athena couldn't risk losing to a mortal because of the other mortals looking onward. It mentions about Arachne's descendants here. So I want you to think about what that might mean, and it's all the generations after. So I want us to add the word descendants to the list, which is all the generations after, meaning after Arachne, her children, her grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on. So jot that to your list. Let's find out what happens to Arachne. Even as Athena spoke, Arachne's fair form dried up and withered. Her straight limbs grew gray and crooked and wiry, and her smooth white arms were no more. 8 legs sprouted and her body shrank, and then just as suddenly as it had started, there was silence. Tiny beside the loom, where just moments before the beautiful weaver of Lydia had stood, crawled a creature that few love and many fear. So here, what was Arachne's punishment? She said she would gladly pay the price if she lost, and here, I don't think she imagined that she was going to be turned into a spider. So here the rest of the text returns to the setting at the beginning of the story. The sun has not long enough shown his face to dry up the dew in the garden, and look at the little clipped tree of boxwood, a great wonder. For in and out and all over its twigs and leaves, Arachne has woven her web, and on the web the dew has dropped 1,000,000 diamond drops. And suddenly all the colors in the sky are mirrored dazzlingly on the gray tapestry of her making. Arachne has come into her own. So here, her work looks a little bit differently now, and it's described in the text as on the web, dew has dropped 1,000,000 diamond drops. It is still intricate. It is still beautiful works of art, and I think that she's just going to continue her weaving on and on. We have now finished the story, so I want us to take a look at our list of words. You should have the following: fragrant, embroidered, tapestry, ambition, scornful, boasting, radiant, unabashed, and descendants. As we read these words in the text, we talked that they had definitions, but sometimes words have feelings or emotions attached to them. We call that the connotation of a word, the feeling or emotion attached to the words. So we can have a positive, negative, or neutral connotation. I want you to think about these 3 words: interested, questioning, or nosy. They all mean the same thing, but which one would you rather be called? Okay, so I want us to think about the word nosy. I wouldn't want to be called nosy. That has a negative feeling associated with that word. So we would say nosy has a negative connotation. I think to be interested, like, oh, Miss Gilly, she's interested in learning today. Well, that's a good thing. So that has a positive feeling or connotation to the word. Questioning, I don't think there's a good or bad, so it's just kind of in the middle. It's just kind of neutral between the two. And so what we are going to do, so our next task is to take our words and sort them into positive, negative, or neutral connotations. So I want you on the back of your sheet of paper or news sheet to make this 3-column chart that says positive, neutral, and negative. And we're going to do the first 2 words together, and we're going to be asking ourselves, is there a positive feeling, a negative feeling, or a neutral feeling? So I'm going to start with the word fragrant. So the word fragrant means sweet smelling. And I'm like, I think that that's a good thing. So I would put the word fragrant under positive. It has a positive connotation. I think of embroidered, and I think of the picture that I saw of the intricate embroidery work, and I'm like, I don't think that's positive or negative. So I would add the word embroidered to neutral. There's just a neutral feeling with it. I want you to go ahead and try the rest of your words on your own and sorting them out. I'll give you just a couple moments. Few more seconds. Great. Let's take a look at what I came up with. Check your word sort with mine. Here's what I came up with. And we're going to need these notes before we move on to our independent practice today. Using everything that we know today, we're going to start our independent practice task. You are going to write a journal from Athena's point of view, and I want you to explain how she felt during her day with Arachne. You're going to retell this myth that we learned today, again, from Athena's point of view. Use everything that you know from the text to help you, and maybe include some of those key vocabulary words in your writing. I enjoyed learning about Arachne with you today, and Athena, thank you so much for inviting me into your home. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson in Tennessee's At Home Learning series. Bye!